Hey everybody, how's it going? All you GH fans out there, welcome to the first podcast episode of GH, the Meat and the Sweet. I'm your host, Ben, and that's Betty.
And we're going to be covering the highlights and major scoop of Season 56, Episode 185, the first episode of 2019.
Yeah, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! We're looking forward to a new year of fantastical storylines.
Ridiculous.
And so, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Cool. All right, so let's jump right into the episode. So, the episode opens, we're right back where we left off, 2018 in the Metro Court, and a body has just been uncovered conveniently enough by our favorite couple.
Not.
Yeah, Sam and Jason.
Sorry, guys. I'm not a big fan of Sam or Jason. But anyways, they're making out.
He lends her his coat. It's so hilarious. I love that. He's such a big, strong guy, and she's essentially, I was wearing as little clothes as humanly possible in the middle of winter.
Oh, you noticed.
On a skyscraper.
Oh, you noticed.
Well, yeah, I'm paying attention to the details of the show.
Oh, okay, good.
Then we cut to
Kevin in Ava's apartment, and he's seemingly putting away stuff in Kiki's boxes. When Ava comes in, asks why he's putting her things away, he comes up with a good psychological reason about, being able to access those things when she wants, but not having them around all the time. Yada, yada, yada.
Kevin really seems to have Ava under his thumb. She really trusts him and listens really attentively to the things that she says. Because I think if anybody else had been putting Kiki's stuff away, she may have lost it. But he just kind of says, you'll always have access to it. And she's like, oh, you're right, Kevin. And then she just kind of moves on from that.
I wouldn't say that he has her under his thumb. That sounds kind of negative. I think he's actually doing something good for her because she doesn't have any friends. Everyone hates her. Everyone thinks she's a monster. And he is smart. He is intelligent. Even though this isn't really Kevin. This is Kevin's brother. And I'd have to go back and look into his past. But he does seem to have psychoanalyst information.
You brought up an interesting point about what he may have been doing with that box.
Yeah, so initially I thought, was he putting something in there from his latest murder, which was some producer that was working on the newest documentary of Kevin's brother's killings and death. Right?
Yeah, the 25th anniversary was a pretty big storyline this last fall. And Kevin, the bad Kevin, right, his brother taking over for him, they really strung that out back when Carly was in Pentonville and she was hearing all those knocks. And, for a while I thought, is this really going anywhere? But now it's playing out as basically the main storyline in the show. So I appreciate what Kevin's able to be doing.
And we're also happy that the actor who plays Kevin and Kevin's twin is finally getting some, mountains and valleys as far as storyline so that he can really shine with his acting abilities.
Yeah, they don't give him a lot to chew on, as they say. But here he's actually able to... there was an episode recently where they were using some cool camera tricks and camera angles where the two Kevins were talking to each other in the cell, and he was playing both roles simultaneously, and I was impressed. I thought that was a pretty cool little deal.
Okay. Let's keep going with the meat of the show here. Next thing that popped up, Nina and Valentine are back together officially and out and about, where they meet. What's her name? Nina's sister-in-law.
They meet Nina's sister-in-law, my ex-favorite hunk's wife, and she's there with the baby. And when she walks in, Nina and Valentine, she's all kind of like, oh, what are they doing together?
Yeah, she's jealous, in my opinion. I think, FYI, I think Nina and Valentine make a great couple. Yes, I know he's lying to her again, but who cares? He makes her happy, and she also doesn't really have anyone else that's on her side. I know that Maxie is her sister-in-law still, even though her brother died, but she really doesn't have anyone else. So Valentine is really her support. And he does love her. Even though he lies, he does love her.
There was a subtle line in the movie, or in the episode, where Nina's saying, oh, well, I'm so happy because I have this person and this person and this person and this person in my life. What more could I want? And I thought it was interesting that they conveniently left out Charlotte's name from that list of all the great people that she has in her life. It was.
She left it out.
Yeah, she did. She didn't mention Charlotte. If you can go back and watch the episode in that first part where she's talking a little bit about, oh, I have all these amazing things in my life, and then they didn't mention Charlotte, I was like, was that just like an oversight by the writers, or was it intentional somehow as a dig towards, what they're trying to do with Charlotte's character? So that was an interesting little tidbit, I thought.
So what happens there basically is...
moving along in that little section of the show.
Aunt Liesel, Nina's Aunt Liesel, sees Valentine over at the bar. They're at Charlie's pub, and they start chatting away, right? Talking about basically the power that each one holds over the other.
My favorite type of conversation is where you just share and exchange threats with a person.
Yeah.
And so to me, that was a really fun scene because each one is trying to show their hand and, like you said, display power over them. And again, these two actors doing a really good job together, putting some pretty cool stuff out there for us to watch.
Yeah, I'm a Valentine fan, so I don't want anyone ruining his any of his plans. I know he is lying to Nina, but you know what? Nina should be smarter than that, right? She shouldn't fall for things. So I don't really see her as a victim. She causes her own demise sometimes.
Yeah, and Nina, just to kind of wrap that part of it up.
She was bad at one point. She did cut out a baby from Ava's womb. Yeah. So, anyways, let's move along.
Yeah, and well, just the last thing on that one is I think the threat that Valentine made at the very end, basically saying, I will murder Maxie's son if you give away my secret.
He didn't say that.
I know, I'm reading between the lines.
He said, I'll murder you.
No, that he'll have to hurt her in ways that are pretty profound.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
cool.
Yeah, those little digs.
I love
for
Valentine.
Me, yeah, Valentine, ever since Valentine first came on the scene, I've been a fan of him. And the actor, too. I'm looking here at my list. I don't see it off the top, unfortunately. Tremendous. I appreciate everything he does in the show. And he's one of my favorites.
Okay, let's continue with the meat here. Christina, who works there at Charlie's pub for Julian, is asking him about her paycheck, blah, 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 because news is she's ready to move out of Sam's place, right? Because every time she goes over, Jason's there and they're about to, bang or something. And also she wants to show everyone, including Sam, that she can be on her own. And recently, Christina, as well as Oscar, have discovered a new friendship and a character we don't really know much about. But it's leading us to think that there is some kind of cult perhaps going on here. We don't know very much. But
she calls it a shared house.
Shared living. Community.
A community living, shared house kind of deal. And everyone I love the scene with Julian because she's speaking profoundly about how Christina is. I need to listen to the signs the universe is giving me, yada, yada, yada. And then the look on Julian's face is kind of like, yeah, like you're speaking directly to me because as you well know, if you're keeping up with the episode, we'll get to here just a little bit later, Julian didn't have a very good New Year's.
And we'll get to that, which is my favorite part of our show, our podcast. Anytime Julian is a major meet or part of the episode, I will have my my Julian moment of the day.
Yeah, we like the hunks.
He's my favorite character.
We like the hunks in the show.
He's my favorite character.
And the sweethearts in the show, they can come and go, really, but
they're questionable still.
Let's not lie. The hunks are the reason why we tune into the show.
And you're not gay. We're married, by the way, so.
Hey, it's even easier for me to...
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying you can show man love, man respect.
Yeah, exactly right. And I can appreciate what the soap producers are trying to do because, in the classic soap operas, there is an archetype or at least a version of these leading men that you want to see in your episodes, and their casting is well done. I'll leave it at that.
All right, so Christina goes back home. Sam's there, obviously making out with Jason, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. She lets them know she's going to be moving out.
Can I just ask, where the heck are the kids?
Right. Oh,
that's going to be a
Sam's
recurring
just such
theme.
a great mom that she's able to put them to bed all the time.
Theme.
No, they were probably at the grandmother's house, the Quartermain's, Quartermain house, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Christina lets them know Sam has some concerns. Kind of mad. I was surprised that she'd be so mad, but then Christina says, "Hey, this is where I'm going to move to."
The community house.
The community house. So if you want to come and check it out, go ahead. She mentions that the leader is Shiloh. We don't know who Shiloh is at this point. They hadn't mentioned that there was a leader to this group prior, even when Oscar had moved in, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So Shiloh. Okay. And if we fast forward, if you want to fast forward now, if we go to the end of the episode, right, when Sam and Jason do take her up on the invitation to go and visit this house, and she's barely moved in, she already has visitors, which I thought was weird, but
what I think is weird is that they roll up Sam and Jason in their leather jackets, looking all bad. And if I recall at the beginning of the episode, Sam was the one who was saying, "Oh, I'm so tired. I just want to go home." And it's like, have they slept a wink? It's like the next day.
No, it was the same day.
No, it's the next morning.
No, Christina's wearing the same outfit.
Right, but it's obviously the next day after the New Year's festivities have
happened.
happened.
Yeah.
It's like January 1st or whatever in the world of the story. And I'm like, okay, did they at least nap, or were they busy doing other things? You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyways, I get a kick out of the wardrobe choices that are made periodically in the show as well.
Well, especially for Sam and Jason.
Yeah.
I mean, forever they wear the same clothes.
Well, I thought we were the only couple who matched our clothes and our leather jackets.
We're not the only people that wear all black all the time.
When we went out.
Okay, so what happens at the end of the episode is Sam and Jason show up there at this new community house, and Christina lets them in and introduces them to Shiloh. And boom, big surprise, we see that Shiloh is the guy that Jason bumped into a couple days ago at the Floating Rib, and they played a game of pool. And
his name is Hank, and he's interested in finding Drew
to thank him for saving his life when they were in the army, right, at war.
So that leads us to our next point here. So at the hospital, Drew's just meandering through the halls, I guess, waiting for Oscar to get out of a test. And out of nowhere, from an elevator, comes the Hank character that we met, like Betty says. And he looks around, and he's like, "Hey, Drew." And so keep in mind, he doesn't know what this Drew supposed person looks like, because before his face had changed, he looked exactly like Jason. But he picks him out just like he knew him, and they have a conversation. And basically, what Hank is asking him for is just to let him say thank you, and he kind of gives a little bit of backstory, which I appreciate, trying to fill in a little bit of the gap here with this completely character in Drew that has no history, telling him that he helped him in a firefight, an IED went off when they were in Afghanistan, and Drew helped save this Hank character and pulled him into a bunker or a ditch, and basically helped him stop the bleeding because he was shot, and basically saved his life and helped him turn his life around from being like an alcoholic to somebody who, values life.
Right. And at that point, when he's having that conversation, it's not the end of the episode yet, so it's later on at the end when we see what this Hank or Shiloh character is actually doing in his life right now in Port Charles.
The plot thickens.
And what's interesting too, I want to point out, is he's talking to Drew at the hospital. Hank is talking to Drew at the hospital, and Drew is Oscar's dad. Oscar is also living there with Hank, aka Shiloh. So it's interesting. It's like at the end of the episode, you wonder, like, so what's Shiloh really doing? Like, why doesn't he mention at that point that anything about Oscar? So I guess he doesn't know that Oscar is his dad. I mean, it's interesting. If Oscar's already been living there for, let's say, about a month or so, that Oscar wouldn't have mentioned it to him.
It is,
or maybe he did.
It begs the question: is this guy really Hank? He has a picture on his cell phone, which was conveniently shown to Drew, that had this Hank character standing next to Drew, but of course he looks exactly like Jason because this was back before the accident, had changed his face. So, he has some evidence that they knew each other before, and it really begs the question: what is this guy, and what's his angle? So that'll be, of course, being played out over the next couple of months and or years, because GH, they love to stretch those storylines out.
Okay, let's continue with the meat here. Let's go back to Ava's apartment real quick. When Kevin leaves because the commissioner calls him, then Lulu shows up at the door and starts talking with Ava about Kevin. Right. She's talking about Kevin and asking Ava if she's seen anything weird about him, letting her know that Kevin, the real Kevin, had a mental breakdown in the past. And so I'm not sure Ava knew anything about it, and she's just letting her know.
She's trying to be a good friend, I guess, here, trying to offer a little bit of advice to Ava, about the history that Kevin has had. And she's trying to basically warn her to pay attention to Kevin's behavior. And that, I think, is going to be a common theme when it comes to Kevin, because now everybody's looking out for Kevin's behavior. And
when Kevin does come back to the apartment, they essentially cutting their conversation. Ava seems a little like she's going to consider what Lulu has been saying. She does tell Kevin what Lulu was talking about, and Kevin does let her know a little bit about his breakdown or his mental issues in the past, and also makes sure that Ava know that Lulu and her mom, Laura, could possibly just be wanting to tear them apart.
And at the end, what I took away from this, which I thought was a pretty cool part of the scene, was how Kevin says they're trying to tear us apart. We can't let them do that. And then Ava agrees and says, we won't let them do that. So they are on the same page, which, our power couple, which seemingly come out of nowhere, really kind of solidifies their relationship.
I think they're good for each other. I think they should keep at it. I'm a fan. All right. Let's see. We have to mention that Kevin did talk to the commissioner and her detective husband, Curtis Ashford.
It was hilarious because in a certain point in the scene when they're chatting, she says, well, why would somebody try to target the commissioner and her private investigator husband? And I think to myself, what a conflict of interest could you possibly have as the commissioner of an entire police force, and your husband is not an officer, not licensed, right, by the state as a police officer, but instead as a private investigator. So I thought that was kind of
with the liberal agenda.
I thought that was kind of crazy.
And Kevin tries to, I guess, lead them in a direction that he wants to lead them in. He does kind of let them conclude that there is a serial killer, maybe a copycat serial killer, or someone trying to take the shine off of the real previous serial killer. But nothing too crazy comes from it, I don't think.
Just that Kevin is knee-deep in the investigation, and that he is providing information which we can only assume is intended to lead the investigation astray. But it is pretty cool because they're saying the killer wants attention, And what more attention could you have than being involved in the actual investigation? So, cool storyline. I thought that was a cool.
Okay. And now to my favorite part of any GH episode recap is my Julian moment of the day.
Hit me with it.
Okay, so as you recall, right before New Year's Day, on New Year's Eve, Julian visited Kim at the hospital where she was there with Oscar. And he let her know, hey, I can stay. I don't have to go to this fundraiser. I can stay here with you. And she was like, no, go. That's fine. One of us should have fun. And he goes, and he's not having a great time. And he bumps into Alexis, and Alexis says, hey, she really wants you there. You should go. So he goes back to the hospital thinking he's going to spend the eve with his girlfriend, right? Well, when he goes to the hospital, what does he see when he opens the window or the curtain to the door of Oscar's room?
He looks through the blinds, and what does he see?
He sees Kim making out with Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And so it breaks his heart. It broke my heart. But you know what? He should move on, because I've just never been a fan of him giving it to Kim. He should be giving it to someone way meatier and sweeter, if you will.
Go eat a hamburger, lady.
So Kim shows up at the bar at Charlie's Pub, and she's got a bag of party favors with her, and she says she wants to celebrate a happy belated New Year's Eve with him, and he's not having it. He's not having it one bit. He gets straight to the point, and my favorite part, where he just simply tells her, you know, I saw you making out with Drew. And she starts to explain that they just got nostalgic, that they got swept up by the moment.
Utterly ridiculous.
But there is no they in nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly.
Drew can't remember anything. So it was her. She was the one that was nostalgic, not Drew.
Yep.
So we know, it's very evident that Kim likes Drew. She wants to reignite that flame. It doesn't seem like Drew's up for it. But Julian's starting to figure that out. And he also just wants to move out of the way.
Yeah, I think he's, honestly, from his heart,
he's a good guy.
He's trying to do right by that whole scenario. And
if you ask me, he's the meat and the sweet.
Yeah, well, he's trying to be sweet, right? But there was a couple of boom moments, as I like to call them, or as we like to call them, because we're watching it and we're cheering. And
boom,
it's like, boom! He let go of some pretty sweet lines, including... Oh, he does not mince words. The man is on fire, and he says basically, yeah, you caught.
Gotcha, bitch. Gotcha.
So that was pretty hilarious, and I appreciated that a lot.
He lets her know, hey, focus on your kid, focus on your baby daddy. And you know what? I couldn't get that out of my mind all night, so I had to, go sleep with somebody. Which is probably not true, but hey, all us Julian fans don't mind him alluding to something that makes us imagine what is going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you got to fill in the blanks of the story, and why not fill in the blank with yourself in that role, huh?
So she calls him a coward and leaves. And guess what? No one cares. Go, Julian. Go get yourself someone more fit for you.
But we'll see. I mean, if you ask my opinion, he did the right thing by telling her that she needs to go and be with her family. But this is an intriguing little subplot that I think needs to be explored, which is Oscar really the son of Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I don't recall the Quartermaines ever having DNA tests.
Right. And not only that, but what if, this is just the what if segment of the show, what if this Shiloh Hank character is in fact the real dad? So I want to see what happens whenever Kim meets this Hank Shiloh character and see what that first look looks like, to kind of give us a little bit of info on their relationship, or if there even was one.
And I'm excited to see who Julian is going to hook up with next. I hope it's not Alexis. That we just, you can't beat a dead horse anymore. Okay.
So real quick here, just to kind of put a couple of bows on some of the things I said earlier. The actor who plays Valentine is James Patrick Stewart. Really, really big fan of him. We also mentioned just a little bit earlier about how the actor who plays Kevin, also his brother Ryan, is none other than John Lindstrom. So just want to give them their props because they are some of our favorites and they're killing it on the episode.
Shout out, shout out.
Totally love what they're doing, of course. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up here, guys. We really appreciate you sticking with us and listening to this little bit of a recap / kind of like update and some history and our own personal opinion on what's happening. We want to let you guys know, if you want to have some info on who Betty and Ben are and how we got into watching GH and how we got in this idea of putting a podcast together that you can listen to and kind of laugh with and hopefully share some ideas with us as well, is our very, very first episode, actually episode 0. Check that out. Get a little bit of info about who we are, where we come from, how we came across this idea. And then, of course, make sure to leave some comments. Let us know what you think. And if you want to help us make the show better, we really would appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks again and Happy New Year, guys.
Heck yeah. All right. So this is Ben.
I'm Betty.
And this has been the meat and the sweet for General Hospital. We'll catch you guys later.